What's up, everybody? Today I am on with Gene Krutyansky, and welcome back to our Elevate Dominate Mastermind. Gene has done a lot of good things in Central Jersey. Recently came over to our EXP family almost a year ago. You're coming up on a year, right?
Actually, May will be a year.
So yeah, you still got. You're not even close to a year. I mean, you're getting there, but not really.
Yeah.
But Gene, I mean, I appreciate you coming on. Let's break it down. How long have you been in the game? What were you doing before real estate? What made you get into it?
So I got into the game, 2002. I got licensed. Started with a different company, Coldwell Banker, for about 2 years. From there, I did pretty well my first couple of years. Like my first full year in real estate, I did about 30 closings. I think like half of them came from for sale by owners. It was funny. I was talking to somebody about this the other day, just thinking back, like, what was my CRM system back then? It was an index card.
Yeah.
I used to go into the Home News Tribune. I used to cut out when people posted their, homes for sale by owner. I cut out their ad. I taped it to my index card. I did a reverse search on their phone number to get an address. And then from there, I got really annoying because I was at their door. I was talking to them. I was, visiting them every week. And it's funny. I remember this one lady. I think I stopped by her house like 7 weeks in a row. And on that 7th week, she was like, "Let me ask you a question. If we don't do business today, you're going to come back next week again?" I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Let's just do the listing." So, and you know what I found with that? I mean, I know we're just jumping all over the place, but if there's like 5 for sale by owners, I mean, obviously today's market is different, right?
Right.
But back then, if you have 5 for sale by owners, you'll have like, let's say 3 agents will reach out to all 5 one time.
Yeah.
But a second time, maybe one person will reach out again, but a third time, nobody does. So that was really the difference, or that was the key. Even today, with everything that we're doing, no matter what your business that you're in, or no matter what, right? It just comes down to persistence and consistency, right? That's it.
Yeah. It's funny. I hear so many times too. So many agents will reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I called for sale by owners one day," or I followed up with them twice. And you know what's crazy? 8 out of 10 of them are now listed. And I'm like, yeah, because they're not a lot of for sale by owner. Well, don't get me wrong, dude. There's a for sale by owner that like absolutely hates and despises a real estate agent, had an awful history with them, or something really bad happened. But there are a lot of for sale by owners that they create a date in their head. They're going to a certain point and then they're going to interview realtors, or they're going to say, "You know what? I even have past clients. They're like, dude, Brett, I tried selling it on my own for, the first 2 weeks. I'm done with it. I can't do it anymore. Can you come in and list it?" I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." But I think that even in today's market, people are still listing with realtors. They're not always selling on their own. They certainly, what are you going to do different? I understand all those objections and that sort of thing. But the reality is they're going to hit a certain point where they're going to interview realtors for the job of selling their home, or they have somebody already in mind, and you have to make sure that you're the better marketer coming across better in that way. And you're right. It's the persistence. It's the follow-up. It's them knowing Gene's not going away. There's one way to make Gene go away, and it's to sign the listing.
That stuck in my head. This one woman, I remember, it was actually Governor's Point in North Brunswick. I lived there at one point for about a year or so, and I just remember the woman. I don't remember the address, but I remember literally going to see her every week. I think it was every Monday or Tuesday, because for some reason she always had her open house on Sunday. I gave her a day or so to see if anybody would, call her up or do anything. And then I was just there knocking on her door. But I literally used to go out and give all these FSBOs I think it was like a 16 or a 17 page booklet. And the heading on the booklet was how to sell your home on your own without using a realtor and saving all the commission. That's what I used to give them. And they're like, "I don't understand. Why are you giving this to me? Or why are you trying to sell me, help me sell my house by my, all that stuff." But, I guess it was just, reverse engineering the whole process. It's like, okay, one of two things are going to happen. And by the way, I don't know how this turned into a for sale by owner interview.
I'm staying on it for a little bit longer. I have more questions.
But one of two things were going to happen, right? either they were just going to get so like boggled with all the things that they read through and have to understand and do that they just don't understand or don't want to do on their own, and they're going to ask for help, or they're actually going to sell their house on their own. You know, they're going to ask me for some help. I'm going to guide them, and they're going to sell. And I'm not going to make any commission on the deal, but I'm going to turn them into a valued client that's most likely going to send me some kind of business in the future from their friends or family. So really, it was a win-win situation. But, you know, I guess just all comes down to perspective, right? How you're viewing this, and, agent's mindset. Really, that's what it comes down to. But going way back, I somehow ended up in Newark when I first got to this country. I'm actually an immigrant from Russia. So we ended up in Newark. A few years later, I ended up in Bloomfield, up actually not far from you. Went to grammar school, middle school, couple of years of high school. And that's also where I had all my little, part-time jobs and up and down, Bloomfield Avenue in the center. I always, liked making money, having my own money, and wanted to buy my own things. And, I was heavily into baseball cards and buying them and reselling them and going to shows and stuff like that. I remember, saving some money, going to the baseball card store. And back then there was like a Fred McGriff rookie card, but I didn't buy one. I bought 50 of them for like $1 each. So I spent $50 on 50 cards. Well, any normal person would go in and buy one card, right? I bought 50 of them because I knew that 3 or 6 months later, which I did, I resold them for $3 each, at a baseball card show. So I tripled my money, over there. I've always had some, that entrepreneurial mindset. Even in high school, I had a store out of my locker, like people, and it was like a candy store. No matter what people wanted, any kind of candy, they can get it from me out of my locker. I'm selling stuff for 25 cents, 50 cents, that's what stuff cost back then. It's not like today.
I was going to say, I keep trying to do that with the baseball cards, but with wine, but then I drink the investment, and then it's at least baseball cards. There's nothing you can do other than look at them and don't touch them. But candy too, that would certainly be a weakness. So you've always had the entrepreneurial hustle. That's always been a thing since back in high school or, even younger.
Yeah. And then, fast forward a little bit, probably like, 19, 20. I went to college a couple of years. I didn't finish. I don't have a college degree. I went to NJIT in Newark for electrical engineering. I hated it. I left, started working with my family. We had a health club as a family business. And that's really where I learned about sales. I learned who Zig Ziglar was, and, other, grandpappies of sales, we'll call them, from that era, Earl Nightingale and, Napoleon Hill, all those books, and that's where I started learning, sales. It was really selling gym memberships.
Yeah.
And learning about, people coming in, touring the club and then not joining, they're leaving. Okay, well, you got to follow up. You know what I mean? You need to reach out to them. During that time period is where I also figured out from like our business perspective that it actually cost us 5 times more money to bring in a new member than to retain an old one. So that stuck in my head for a very long time, even when I got into, buying the brokerage that I've owned for 15, 17 years when I, got into Remax. I spent, way more time on retention than on recruiting. I wanted to make sure, I felt like every time I got up, I was re-recruiting my existing agents, making sure that they were happy, that they didn't want to go anywhere, that they wanted to tell other people that, they liked where they were and things like that. Yep. And I felt that it was kind of that same model that I had in the gym, where it was kind of like that 5X. In the gym, it was like $125. What we figured out, it was to bring in a new member versus like $25 to renew an old one.
Yep.
Between marketing and admin costs and salaries and all that stuff. So then we got into a health food store. In 2000, my wife and I bought a health food store, which I guess kind of transitioned, from that gym period. We had that for about 5 years, from 2000 to 2005. In 02 is when I got started in real estate. And, by like 03 and a half, we're like, okay, I'm making more money like in 3 months in real estate than we're doing the whole year in the health food store. So in 2005, we ended up selling the store and then just moving on into real estate full time. 2006. So 2004, I moved to Remax from Caldwell. Yep. And then 2 years later, 2006, I bought the brokerage from the previous owner with 2 locations. And that was October of 06. And I think we all remember what happened in October of 07.
I got licensed in June of 07, which was a fun time to get a real estate license.
Great time.
So yeah. Yeah, I know exactly where this is going. But yeah.
So that was definitely, we had an awesome year, from that 06 to 07 period. And then all of a sudden, I remember it was like October, November of 07. I think the entire floor from under our feet, fell out.
Yeah.
It was almost like, March of, 2020 when, COVID came out and we're like, what the hell do we do now? Nobody knew what to do.
Yeah.
But I think back then it was actually, I don't know. I think it was worse. Just the whole, economy market completely crashed.
I actually, for anybody who's only lived through the COVID one right now, that was way worse, because that was like, you couldn't, at least during COVID, we were shut down by the government. It didn't mean that the consumers were necessarily afraid of spending money. What was interesting about like me having come in through June of 2007 is you actually had to list properties for what they're worth in October of 2007 to get them to even move. Like, you had to have the conversation with the seller that like, you have to take 10% off this price today, or you're going to lose 20% tomorrow. And that is a tricky, well, especially for me as a new agent, but I'm just saying that was, and you couldn't convince a buyer to buy a property because every time they didn't buy the property, it was worth less the next day.
100%.
Yeah. It was interesting.
The market definitely, like it is, it definitely wasn't like it is right now, but it's a very, very challenging time. I remember, a bunch of my agents just, struggling. People were getting, part-time jobs, and some left the business. But most, stayed in it, most toughed it out, and, they're still here today. A big portion of them are still with me today, but it definitely was really, really difficult, especially, me being, I think I was like 32 when I became the owner, of Platinum. That was a struggle in itself. I remember, there were agents that I would talk to from other brokerages, that were interviewing, they were switching offices, and they didn't come my way. They didn't join with me. They decided to go to another office. Some of the feedback that I got was, my age, they didn't know what to expect. They thought I'd be, closed up in 12 months. So they just, they didn't want to, bank on me or what, whatever, my thought process and things like that. But, listen, it is what it is. I'm glad the way things worked out and, where we are today. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that one thing that we kind of glanced over, and I have somebody on here every single week. I actually have somebody from my team we do on Thursdays, Fridays, and I do the downline on Mondays and Tuesdays. And you just like nonchalant, we're like, oh yeah, I sold 30 homes my first year. 15 of them were FSBOs. Like, that's insane, by the way, but it makes sense. Like you came out and punched the audience where you're like, hey, this is what I did. But then it made sense because you've been through, you were growing through it, and you understood. I would imagine even back when you were selling the gym memberships, you had a process. You probably had a canned presentation. It was sign in here. Then I'm going to tour them through this part of the facility. Then we're going to go over there. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to be asking them questions about this, building rapport. And then we're going to come back and sit down. And then that's when I'm going to go in for the sign.
You're right. But the funny thing is I don't think I actually knew that I actually had a process back then. I think it was just happening naturally.
Yep.
And when you fast forward to today, it's like, oh, that was my listing presentation. Like I didn't have a presentation. I just went through the process, not thinking about that it actually was a presentation.
Yeah. No, totally. Well, at least with a gym, you have a certain way to start walking through it and stuff like that. Whereas for realtors, if we're like, go take that listing over there, they don't even know. A lot of times they don't know what they're going to say. And that's why we do all these masterminds. And that's why you guys have the Leaders Edge Zoom. And you broke out the last one I hopped on. You guys were Chris Walsh, Sal Venture. You guys were all breaking down what the 2022 business plan looks like. And it's crazy to me. I was on a Zoom. Maybe he's watching. I was on a call earlier this morning, and the agent was telling me that 2020 was a better year than 2021. And I said, well, what is happening? What is your current brokerage doing for you to make sure that your plan is so ironclad that that'll never happen to you again? Crickets, nothing.
I was going to say crickets.
Yeah, nothing. They've done. So we're hopping on a follow-up Zoom this week. And it's so interesting that like, so anybody who's listening right now, and this is what's fun about like Gene, and I love playing with him on this. He has the answer. He has the solution. He's been doing this since 2002 and actually prior to that. And he knows how to look within your business internally and create the awareness for yourself so that when you're saying 2021 wasn't the best year of my life, it's like, how do we course correct that? How do we stop just wishing that this is going to get better and actually focus in on a plan? Like you said, with the for sale by owners, like what if you went and reached out and said, Gene, let's put together one of those for sale by owner packets. I want to do it, but I want to run an ad on Facebook now and create a retargeting audience and blah, 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 with a video on how I'm going to help you sell your home for free. Like, I think that you'd get a lot of people connecting with that, signing up, some sort of gated, piece or something where you're getting their email and everything, and you're starting to cultivate a database from that.
Absolutely. And I still have those packets in a Word doc, from like 2002. They probably have to be updated a bit, from all those years, but I still have all those.
That's awesome.
So yeah, man, it's been fun. It's been challenging. It's been fun. And then, even just going back to like when, my wife and I had the health food store, I didn't know things back then. I wasn't, learning or reading about, like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which obviously I've, read 10 times. And I've had, my kids have read it, at like 13 years old and things like that. But, just thinking about that whole process and then thinking about us having that health food store, we weren't business owners, right? And I want to be a business owner, right? Number one, I don't want to be employee. And number two, I don't want to be self-employed. Self-employed still requires you being there. If you're not there, your business is not functioning. And that's what we had. We were self-employed. Right. It's definitely better than being an employee, but being a business owner is way better.
Right.
You know what I mean? And even that terminology, for some people that are listening to this, it may not make sense to them. You have to look it up. Look up the differences between self-employed and business owner, or just look up what's his name's book. I think it's Cash Flow Quadrant. He talks about the 4 quadrants, about those things. And but fast forward to all those years, of being with the, with the same brokerage. I was with Remax for a long, long time, and it was a great company. We had, awesome years, great business and things like that. But eventually something changed, the same way that it changed with you, with, coming from, KW and moving on and things like that. So, after like 17 years, 7 months ago, we moved our entire brokerage. I had 64 agents and 62 came along out of the 64. That was like 7 months ago.
Yeah.
It was very challenging. It wasn't, number one, it wasn't an easy decision. That was probably the hardest thing I think I ever had to do in a very, very long time. Yeah. It's not like one agent picking up and changing a company. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was definitely hard, but I'm happy we did it. where we are today, and with the other guys that, came along, I think collectively we moved 300 people over. I believe our number now is close to 400, like another 90 or 100 people came on board in the last 7 months.
Yeah.
And, that's really the plan. We want to keep growing, our network. We want to help as many people, as many agents as possible, achieve their real estate goals. That's the reason why we're doing all this that we do every week, even with, Leader's Edge. For anyone listening, and even you, I hope you hop on, tomorrow morning. We're actually going to be interviewing Quintavious Burdett. I actually met him 3 years ago at a I think that was his first year in real estate, where he did 106 deals in his first year. And I think last year was like 300 transactions, which is just mind-boggling with one assistant. But we're interviewing him tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock at Leader's Edge, and that's leadersedgezoom.com. There's a plug for Leader's Edge. Yeah,
and like that's just so everybody understands too. It's not like that's open to everybody. This is what they're doing. This is a lot of people, a lot of sales trainers, a lot of collaboration. Like people are just sitting on their heels right now, and agents need help. So like I feel like that's a very, and I'm definitely hopping into that. That's I know who that is, and that's incredible that you guys have him coming on, because that's what this is all about. It's like being able to connect people with the people that have done more than what it is they've already done. And like, it's how do we fast track them to whatever that may be? And I always tell people, like, I'm not a smart person, or maybe I am a smart person based on this, but I'm really good at being the dumbest person in the room. And if somebody sold 300 homes, we sold 309 homes last year with 40 agents. So if somebody sold 300 something homes with one agent, and I've been doing this since 2007, and he's been doing it for 3 years, I can learn a thing or two from that guy. So I'm going to go sit there and I'm going to figure out what I can take away, and I'm going to be plugged in. I'm going to have my cell phone off. I'm like, but that's really what this is all about. So if somebody, and I got another call coming up at 3, so start closing it down. But if somebody, says, Gene, this is awesome. I want to get in your world, man. I want to figure out, aside from just that Zoom, how would they get in touch with you? How do they be a part of this movement that you guys are doing?
I mean, they can Google my name. They'll find all ways to contact me. Easiest thing is just send me a DM, whether it's on Facebook or on Instagram. Instagram, I'm under exp_Gene. Facebook, you just find my name. It's not that difficult to find me. But I do want to leave agents, whether they're new agents or a few years in the business, just put a couple of things that I talk to a lot of my agents about, and just kind of remind them that remember what business that you're in, right? Like a lot of times people will ask you, what business are you in? Oh, I'm in the sales business. Sometimes people say, I'm in the people business. You are, that's all true. But remember that you're ultimately in the lead generation business, because if you don't have leads, you don't have any income. That's the bottom line. So, and you have to understand that you're a business owner. You own and you're running a business. And most agents are not running a business with a plan. And that's why we have an 85% fail rate in the first 2 to 3 years. All the money is in the follow-up. That's ultimately what it comes down to. You can't be a one and done deal. If we had another half an hour, I give you a couple of stories of, my experiences of, buying cars and turning that experience into agent training, where it's actually called Don't Be Doug. It's the same thing with the retention, right? The retention over the recruiting. It's the same thing with your business. It doesn't matter if you're a brokerage that's looking for agents, or if you're an agent that's looking for clients, buyers and sellers. Once you deal with somebody and you close them, you got to follow up. You got to stay in touch. You have to reach out to them. You have to follow them on social media. You have to comment on their posts and hit the like button. And there's ways to do that so you're not wasting time, so you don't fall into that deep, dark abyss of social media and, get sucked in. There's all ways around that. But The last thing I'm going to just leave with, which, is you got to focus on the process. There's a lot of new agents that get into the business and they're like, oh, awesome. I just put my first deal together, and they're already calculating their commission check and how they're going to spend it and where it's going to go. And then before you know it, the deal falls apart and there goes your commission. Don't do that. Focus on your clients. Focus on the process, and the commissions will always find you and follow you. That's what I got.
100%. That's awesome. And also too, to add to the clients and following up and everything like that too, just keep in mind what he said about the gym membership as well. Your past clients, when you're loving on them, when you're helping their friends and family, the acquisition cost on that is much less than paying Zillow a 35% flex referral fee at this point. So definitely keep that in mind. Love on them, working properly, give them a call to check in, and a little bit goes a long way.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me on today.
Dude, pleasure, man. Always a pleasure, and hope to get together soon.
Thanks, man. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Definitely.
All right. Take care.